What's up, everyone? Criddle here, and I want to talk about the damage calculation in the first Descendant. I've been messing around with this most of the day today, and I finally figured out the formula, and I'm kind of been adding some things up and trying to figure out how it all works. So anyway, this here is the formula right here, and you're going to basically be multiplying all of these out, but it's not as easy as just multiplying everything down and just boom, there you have it. They have a thing called damage buckets in this. I don't know if you ever played Diablo 4, but it's the same thing as that. So you want to add things into your damage buckets and then you multiply those out. So the more damage buckets you have, the better, because you get more multiplicative damage. And I'm going to show you exactly how that works right here. So as you can see, I have my weapon and everything, or my skill built into here. So we have 35 to 95 damage. And if I run over here and hit the boss or hit the mob, we have 35 to 95. And then we have our crit damage of 60,000, etc. So the 35 to 95 is the base damage, which we have right here. And that's multiplied out by, like I said, all of our damage buckets. So how do we get that number? Well, the first thing you want to take a look at is your reactor. Whoops. So we're going to go up here to the reactor, and we can see that the base skill of our reactor is 11,060 damage, or 11,060.96. And then we're going to take that and we're going to multiply it times the optimization condition. So that's your first multiplier. If you don't have that multiplier, it's just going to be the 11,060. But if you have that multiplier, which you want to try to have, you're going to get 60% more total damage. Now, if you're using a gold mod, you must have that weapon equipped. If you're using a purple mod, it just has to be equipped over here. So if it's a gold mod, it has to be in your hand, physically in your hand. And a purple mod just has to be one of the three weapons equipped over here to get the bonuses. Of course, the gold bonus is 160%, where the purple bonus is 140%. So it's better to use a gold mod or a gold reactor if you are mostly using that weapon, or anytime you use a skill with that character, you are using that particular weapon. The next thing we have are the next damage bucket is going to be your non-attribute damage bucket. And then we have the dimension skill, or whatever the type is, damage bucket. So when you have the non-attribute damage bucket, we're getting 20% right here because we have that. It's a non-attribute skill that we're using. If we look at our skill right here, this is the skill. So it's non-attribute and dimension. So we are getting that 20%. And then what we actually do, though, is if we, let's say we add in a mod that gives us non-attribute. So we have non-attribute specialist here. This right here will add 81.2% to that non-attribute skill power. So here we would say attribute bonus, and this is 0.812. So this is 81.2%, and that's going to increase our damage to 59,179. And we can see that by going right over here, using the skill again, and we have 59,179. So you can see how that multiplies out. So the next thing that I want to talk about, that's one damage bucket, right? The next damage bucket is going to be the dimension skill damage bucket. So you have 20% more from that. You can't really add anything to those in particular, because if you go and you try to find a dimension specialist or any of these things, it's always going to be a modifier. Modifiers add in a separate bucket than the dimension skill. So if you had something that did say increases your dimension skill power, that would go into this dimension bucket. But if it says modifier, dimension skill modifier, that's going to go into a separate bucket, which is right here under skill power modifier. In this case, our skill power base modifier is 1.385. You get that from the skill right here. This is going to be a little bit confusing because it doesn't read that in the actual game. But if you look under where it says waterway, skill power times 130.2, that 130.2 is actually an error. It is it's 138.5%. It took me forever to figure that out, but we finally did figure that out. So that is actually an error. But that is going to be your damage multiplier. Then you would take anything from your damage multiplier here, and you would add in the bonus multiplier. So let's say we were to add in, for example, that dimension that we were just talking about. So let's say we do focus on dimension. We're going to add in this one, which is 68.2% more. So we're going to add that in right here. And we go back to our spreadsheet and we're going to put that right here. So 0.682, that is 68.2% more. And that's going to take our damage up to 88,320. So we can see that by going right over here and boom, 88,320. So you can see how all these damage buckets work, and they just kind of add together. You have to add in the multipliers to the multipliers. You have to add in the bonus types to bonus types, and all of that kind of stuff. Now, one more thing is the skill power. So there is something that's just called skill power, and we're going to look at that one. That is dangerous ambush, for example. This one adds 20.5% damage, and that is a separate skill bucket. So when we add in that, we have to put that right here into the skill power by itself. So it's 1.205. And if we look at that, we have 106,426. So if we come over here, do that, we have 106,426 damage. So these are all the different buckets that you can put into like and have be multipliers. On top of that, we have additional damage and resistances. So if you are able to add in additional damage, say you have something that boosts your damage by 25%, then that's where you would add it in, is right here. And then something that may add your resistance or lower the resistance of an enemy or increase the resistance of an enemy. Some enemies have increased resistance to non-element or non-attribute, for example. Or we can, add in, if we wanted to say 20% damage increase, or we lower their resistance by 20%, we could put 1.2 in here, and that would lower their damage, or that would increase my damage by the amount of lowered resistance, if that makes sense. Now, the reason I wanted to kind of go over all of this is mostly because I want to look at what the difference is between the bonus attributes and then the bonus modifier. Which one is better to increase? Because we do have an option. We can go here and we can add in attribute skill power. We can add in modifier, and then you can continue to do that with, skill power. We have different ones that we could put in here, and you don't know which one is going to be the best. For example, this one's skill power modifier, which is 96.1%. If we were to stick that in there, which we can't right now because of this, but if we were to swap these two out, that would obviously change the numbers and which one is going to be better. What I have noticed is if this number right here, the skill power multiplier, is above 1.2, so let's take 10,000 as a base here, just so we can do easy numbers. And we'll do 2 times crit damage just to make that also easy. So let's say we're doing 10,000 base on our reactor. We have the optimization condition. We also have both of these attributes. And then we have the skill power, let's just say a base of 1 on skill power. And then we have the skill power modifier. And this number, if you remember, is the number of the actual skill right here, where we have it, skill power times whatever number. So that's where that comes from. If this is 1.2 or higher, then you're better off adding things into your bonus attribute or your bonus dimension or whatever that is. Anything that's just going to add to these buckets. If you try to add something to this bucket of the same value, then it's not going to be as much. And we can see that right here. If we put in, let's say 20% more to this and 20% more to this, you get the exact same number here and here, even though this is adding to the modifier and this is adding to the attribute here. So if we were to reduce this though, let's say this is only 100%, so 100% would be a 1, then you can see that the skill power modifier gives us a bigger bonus than adding in the attribute power. But if we go, let's say, over 120, so we'll put in, let's say it does 150% damage on the skill multiplier of the skill, and we add in another 20% bonus, we're doing less damage. So we would be better off adding 20% more to your attribute versus 20% more to your modifier. So that's kind of what I was wanting to go over, how this all works, and hopefully make it a little bit more sense. I don't know if all of that made a lot of sense to everybody, but if it did, please let me know. Like, subscribe, follow, all that kind of stuff. And, let me know what kind of builds you're making. I'm kind of making some builds right now, and I would love to test out what you guys have going on as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.